Welcome to the Less Glove, More Fist podcast.
With me, Coach Bronson.
And me, Coach Nat.
Where we peel back the curtains and reveal the truth behind hot topics in health and fitness.
This is Keto Fit Life.
Unfiltered. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Less Glove, More Fist podcast. This is Coach Bronson.
And Coach Nat.
And today we are going to give you some practical information about how to look at your current situation and point you in the direction of what you should be doing for your macros and how you should be looking at your nutrition solution.
So you never need another cookie cutter keto program
We can get
to
you
try to fit yourself into the box of what somebody else's protocol or method.
Right. We want to get you. You guys have heard us talk before. It's all about context. So we're going to go through some scenarios and give you some very specific context, applications, whatever. We're going to give you basically. We have three example people.
We are pulling back the curtain to show you how we, as coaches that work with individuals, individualize how we work with those people.
Yes.
So how we take a person, we assess their situation, and then we give them very specific, personalized.
And you're gonna, one of the reasons we want to do, two reasons I think, and you tell me if I'm wrong. Two reasons we want to do this. One, we want you guys listening to understand how you may fit into one of these and give you a kind of a pointer, like I said, in where you might want to start looking at your own solution.
Right.
Secondly, and I think more importantly, is we really want you to understand how freaking complicated this can be for a coach to help you find the specifics. The idea of what we're doing from a nutrition perspective is simple. Mm-hmm. Eat clean food, don't eat crap, get your protein, fuel yourself appropriately.
Basic.
Done. That's the basics, okay?
Yep.
There are some specific things, though, that if you don't understand and you're not aware of or you don't know some of the information that we know as coaches who are trained and have years of experience doing this.
How to apply that stuff for you.
Correct.
Specifically.
Because you're going to get to a point, the basics will get you started and it will get you a very long way down the road. There will be a time where you stop, you stall, you have a plateau, you get stuck, and you need to know how to make changes and what those changes need to be. And that's what we're going to talk about.
I think it was our first episode where we dove into context and why everyone doesn't need to be doing 80-20 and why everyone doesn't need to be doing PSMF. And this episode is your Bible right now to tell you the how.
Right. So
how do you figure it out?
Yeah, how do we figure that stuff out? So so you said 80-20, we said PSMF. Some other things that people do with their nutrition lifestyle that they think is just when you do keto, when you do carnivore, this is what everybody does. This is what I need to do, right?
Right.
Intermittent fasting.
Oh, yeah.
Intuitive eating. Eat till you're full.
And not just intuitive, and not just intermittent fasting, extended fasting.
Extended fasting, OMAD, all of the different things.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
And then there's the intuitive thing. Eat till you're full. Don't eat. If you're not hungry, don't eat. That gets into what we could have probably a whole episode on.
There's what that does for people. Not doing anything for fitness until you've lost the weight. So there's the only needing to focus on nutrition. You only need to worry about nutrition. Don't move your body. Bronson is having a aneurysm right now.
That is not a topic we want to talk about on this episode. I am fired up about that one right now.
But we can touch on it. I think we are touching on the fitness side of things. What we'd recommend for people in the specific situations for nutrition and fitness.
Yeah, we're focusing mostly on nutrition today, but we will talk about some fitness aspects as far as maybe just some ideas on where you should be.
Depending on where you're coming from, right?
Yeah. I think, we did put some stuff in
there.
We did.
We put both exercise and nutrition.
All right. We actually have notes for this one today, guys.
Yes, so hopefully we won't be all over the place. Trying to keep ourselves from diving down rabbit holes.
Rabbit holes too much. Okay, so basically what we're looking at is, for the technical terms, so this, just a little background. The idea for this topic, she's over here laughing.
I'm giggling because I know where he's going.
So I'm going to read to you the notes.
Is
this verbatim for what?
You gave me, yes. Okay. These are the notes he gave me about the topic he wanted to do.
This was at what, 12:30
and then you can wonder why
or something, like we were going to bed.
Yes.
I'm laying in bed. I couldn't get to sleep.
No,
And...
you know what it was? You were in the middle of a migraine
Oh,
after
that's right. That's right. I came
coming
home
back from
from the gym
BJJ.
or the BJJ something, and I'm laying on the bed. The lights are out.
He
I had a
calls me into
huge
the room.
migraine. Yeah.
He's like, "Hey, can you come in here for a minute?" I'm like, "What does he need? He's got a migraine. He probably needs something,
Yeah.
right?" He's like,
My head hurts so bad.
Can you take notes?" I was like, "You have got to be kidding me right now. In the middle of a migraine, you have ideas
Yes.
that you want me to capture."
They never stop. So and here's the
And
idea.
not just not layman's terms either.
Okay, so here's the idea that I had. She took this down note for note. The progression and regression of nutrition protocols based on your journey and health condition. An explanation and discussion of the appropriateness of a nutrition protocol based on if someone is metabolically healthy or not, physically active or not, obese or not, and what are different applications of macros and health, and where different applications of macros and health markers come into play. Some context to include nutritionists or trainers who talk about getting healthy without eliminating any food group. You don't have to stop eating carbs to lose weight. That was the thought.
It was. I said, "Okay, so
she
now
wrote it down
tell
and then
me,
looked at me and was like, "What? Okay, now tell me what that means."
now tell me what you want to talk about on this podcast."
Oh my God. Okay. So basically, what that means.
By the way,
your understanding of what we're talking about.
Sure.
Okay, so
And
she can summarize.
by the way, fam, this is what I exist for. I take these.
How many times a day do I say, "Hey, babe, can you take some notes"?
This and I translate
Yes,
the
she does a lot of
Bronsonisms
translating.
into human vernacular so that others can understand where his lofty mind goes.
Just so everybody understands a little bit of where that comes from. I'm not super smart. I've never been to college.
Okay.
So I've never like classically trained. Like I don't have a degree. I've never been to college and this and that. But I've spent the last 25 years writing documentation. So I'm an IT project manager. I've been a systems engineer. I have literally written probably hundreds of thousands of pages of documentation over the past 25 years. So, and not just regular documentation, technical documentation, design system documentation, stuff for government contracts, things like that. So when I think about writing down what's in my head, it's always probably
Formal
way more complicated
language.
than it needs to be.
Formal language. Big words.
Yeah. So that's where that comes from.
Yeah. So I'm always like, "Okay, love, let's see how we can make this sound a little more normal."
The normal people speak.
Okay, so basically what we're talking about is nutrition protocols, different ways of implementing this lifestyle,
Yep.
and how to know which one is appropriate for you for where you're at on your journey.
Oh, that's a much easier way of saying it.
Right? Makes so much more sense.
All right, so in order to do that, do we want to do a quick run through of the 3 example people and then go back to the first one and kind of start from scratch with that one?
Yeah, let's do that. We've broken it down into like 3 pretty large subgroups of the population that should cover easily can categorize.
Yeah. Obviously, we don't have the time to do every scenario we've ever run across.
There are many different nuances.
Yeah. So, but when we get into the details, we might be able to touch on how some of that would apply.
Yes.
Okay. So the first person that we have, the first hypothetical person we have, is somebody who is in their 50s, or their 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s. They are sedentary.
Yep.
They're not metabolically healthy.
Right.
That could mean diabetes, diabetes, hypertension. They could have who knows other autoimmune. They could have a bunch of different issues.
Yep.
And we said they're sedentary, so they're not really working out, anything like that. That's the first one.
Yep. Typically, this is also coming with obesity a lot of the time.
Correct. Yes. So, and it could be obesity could be anywhere from 20 pounds to 250 pounds.
Yep.
Obese.
And
right? We're talking about
kind of an umbrella ranges, would be like an insulin resistant person.
Right.
Which is usually going to lead to hypertension, diabetes. Things. Right.
Gotcha. Okay. What's the second person?
Second person is our lean folks, our lean athletic types. This is men or women who are in a low body fat range, no metabolic issues, pretty active in their everyday life, active in sports, or already been training for a long time, not necessarily resistance training. This could be some of our cardio people.
Yep.
Yeah, people who are looking to gain muscle and improve their fitness.
Right.
Or performance in their sport.
Most of the goals are more about fitness than they are about body composition in general.
Or
losing weight.
Right. Or they're seeking improved body composition through putting on weight.
More muscle, right.
Yeah.
So that could be even someone who's bodybuilding or just, I've lost a lot of weight. I'm now lean, but I don't have the shape that I'm looking for. I want to look better in a bikini or
this
bathing
includes
suit
all of our hard gainers, men and women who've always been on the smaller side and want to put on healthy weight.
Okay. And then the third class of hypothetical person we have is women specifically, because men don't have to deal with menopause, at least not first person.
So women going through the change, so peri into postmenopause.
Postmenopause. So that's, what, the 40 to 45 to
50 plus.
And up range, right? So, and then there, in a lot of cases, what we see, there is the side of the obesity where they fall into the other category where they already have issues of metabolic health and metabolic syndrome. But then there's also the class which we're going to tie into this specific scenario. For these women, they're the skinny fat. Yep. So they're not overweight per se. If you looked at them walking down the street, you wouldn't think that they were obese.
Right.
But their body fat percentage is way higher than it should be compared to their lean mass.
Yep.
So they're obese, they're just not big and obese.
And I would say a lot of these ladies, whether they're on the smaller side or the larger side, you're either overweight or, let's say, underweight but over fat, right?
There you go. Underweight but over fat. Yep.
What we see is that typically at this time, so perimenopause into the beginnings of menopause, putting on weight, putting on body fat at a faster rate than they were prior.
And then all the other symptoms, right? There's the hot flashes, the fatigue.
Oh, yeah.
The fatigue and all the other.
Any of the symptoms that come with it, the night sweats. Yep.
Okay.
All of that.
All right. So those are the three, I guess you could say, templates of individuals that we're kind of looking at. So basically what we're going to do, we're going to talk about how we would approach each one from a nutrition perspective. Maybe we'll talk about the fitness side and what we would recommend from a fitness perspective as well. And then if there's any nuances or other things, so we'll say, hey, just kind of the base, how we would look at this, and then maybe there's some things that we need to tweak within that.
Right.
Because again, I want you guys to understand that as coaches, when we're trying to be specific and individual to you, there's a reason why we ask you a million questions.
Oh, so many questions at the beginning.
Okay, and even throughout the process,
right?
Everything about your life plays into this. So we may have a specific macro template and say, here's your basic workout routine for your scenario. But if you are a night shift worker, that could completely change that workout routine or what we have in that workout routine or how often we have you working out. If you're doing certain things, if you have an allergy to something, I can't eat X, Y, or Z. I have a histamine intolerance. There's all sorts of these things that can come into play that can change how we actually help you apply the ideas that we're looking at.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what is the recommendation? Let's talk about the sedentary, overweight, middle-aged person who's got metabolic syndrome. And they're just trying to, most of them come to us initially saying, I want to lose fat. But we know that there's also, I want to get off medication.
Absolutely.
I need to be able to move around my house without help. I want to play with my grandkids, whatever those different reasons are.
Joint pain, difficulty moving around.
I can't put my own socks on, whatever.
Yep.
What are the macro recommendations that we would start somebody like that off with?
Well, here's the underpinning of how we would handle it with all the groups.
Okay, yeah, good call.
There is a term that we would use for all of the groups, and that is, first and foremost, adequate protein.
Adequate protein.
Now, what that means for each of the different groups would be a little bit different. So when we say adequate protein, what do we mean when we're talking about this particular individual?
Yes. So when we say adequate protein for this individual, we're saying they need enough protein to allow their body to repair and recover. And assuming that we're going to be introducing some physical activity, that recovery includes recovering from the physical activity that they're doing.
Yes.
Okay. The balance is when somebody is insulin resistant and their pancreas is shot and their liver is not working properly and all these things are wrong, they're going to have an increase in blood glucose from protein. And that's not a bad thing. People freak out. Oh my God, if I'm eating protein, that's okay. Number one,
this
I want
is where
everyone to
we
realize,
see the 80-20 crop up.
Correct. This is where we see the 80-20 crop up because we don't want
so afraid
protein,
of gluconeogenesis.
Right. We don't want protein to freak out your blood sugar. Here's the deal. The rise in the rise in blood glucose from protein is nowhere near, right? So what you got when you ate carbs. So think about it this way. If I'm taking out 100 grams or 100 millimoles, whatever measurement you want to use, if I'm taking out 100 of blood sugar from the carbs and I'm putting in 20 from protein, I am net 80
it's a
lower
fraction,
than I would be.
Yes, of where you were with the carbs.
It's still better than, okay? And any of that stuff, especially if you're also increasing your physical activity and you're building muscle and you're doing all these other things, your body's going to be able to handle that extra 20.
This is how we improve
better
insulin sensitivity
than it was the 80 before when you were sitting on your butt.
Yep.
Right? So one of the things I want you guys to understand is the concept of net positive, net negative. It's a huge, huge, huge concept that you have to understand. You cannot look at every single option on the table, and if that one option is bad, completely throw it out.
Right.
You have to compare that option to the other options, and Coach Nat likes to use the term low-hanging fruit.
Yes.
So when we talk about what are the changes you want to make and how are we going to decide what goes first, what is the one thing that's going to make the biggest net positive
Absolutely
in your life?
And cause the least amount of additional stress for
Correct.
you.
And that's on your schedule, on your family, on yourself, on your body, on your mind.
Your mental, your emotional.
Yep. So that net positive, net negative concept applies on a whole bunch of different levels.
Yes.
So when we talk about protein for this person, they need enough protein. Now, here's the deal. I love Dr. Lehman, his quote when we listened to that video with Dr. Attia was interviewing him. If you're not familiar with Dr. Lehman, look him up. He's Dr. Gabrielle Lyon's mentor. He's like one of the
OG when it comes to protein.
Protein metabolism. He is the guy. And his statement about protein intake is protein is not a percentage. Protein is not a ratio. Protein is a fixed number. It doesn't change.
It's a necessity.
Your body needs protein, and it needs enough protein to keep your metabolism functioning. Okay? So here's the deal, guys. This is what drives me crazy with the 80-20 concept and trying to fix people into a fat amount, not a protein amount.
Right.
Your body runs and is managed by protein.
Amino acids literally are the building blocks of your body. If you've ever heard that, protein is the building blocks. Amino acids are what your body needs and uses to literally build everything that you are made of.
Protein is the gears that make everything happen in your body. So all of the functions, think about all of the functions in your body. The hormone function and your heart working and your lungs working and your cardiovascular system and your muscles functioning. All of that stuff is because of amino acids. The fuel that we eat provides the energy for those things to happen. Mm-hmm. So when we focus on the energy, we're completely
the amino acids are the raw material.
Function itself. Right. It's like the raw material. Exactly.
Bronson loves the car analogy all the time, right? It's like gas would be useless
if our engine was crap.
If there was no car.
Yeah. That's even better.
I mean, they're the literal materials that are used to put the physical car together that holds the gas would not be there if there were no amino acids.
100%. I love that. Gas is useless if there's no
You'd be putting fat in nothing. There would be no matter.
Right, exactly.
No human body to put fat into.
So the avoidance of protein, I don't care how metabolically sick you are, you need protein.
Yes.
Period.
Oh, he paused on that. He gave me a little look like somebody's not going to be happy with me.
So, and here's the deal. The focus on fixing your mitochondria by giving it a lot of fat, I can understand at an initial point, and this is where we can talk about this person.
Yes.
If this person that we're talking about, this overweight, sedentary, doesn't work out, has a lot of metabolic syndrome, their starting point, we're going to talk about, we start everybody for the most part, because here's another we got to get into concepts before we get into specifics.
Of course.
Here's another concept.
Lay the groundwork.
It's not just the adequate protein, but it's also understanding that thresholds and the process of making adjustments. So you have to start somewhere. No matter who you are in this scenario, you have to start somewhere.
Yep.
So we have an energy threshold and we have a protein threshold. And basically, when we're talking about protein, what is the minimum amount for this person? I would say, what is the minimum amount of protein that they can take in but still see an improvement in skeletal muscle mass?
Minimum effective dose.
Minimum effective dose of protein. So that we can manage, yes, they're maintaining their metabolism. Yes, they're still getting the benefit of the protein.
They're getting what they need to survive.
They're getting what they need to thrive and improve. Okay?
Not just survive.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I don't want anybody who's healing to just survive.
The
idea is to get better.
By. Yeah.
The idea is to get better. So you need more protein to get better. So we want to find that amount of protein. How much do they need? Track it over a couple of weeks. Are they gaining lean mass? Is their activity getting better? Do they feel like they're getting stronger in their workouts or whatever, or feeling better in their workouts, whatever it is? Okay, we know that's probably a good amount of protein. But it doesn't need to be super high.
Right.
Because their goal isn't like gaining a pound of muscle every week.
This person does not need to eat protein like a bodybuilder.
Exactly. And their fat can be adequate as well. It doesn't need to be super high. So here's another thing when we talk about an energy threshold. You want to explain energy threshold?
That's your jam. You have pretty much coined the term.
Okay. So when it comes to our protein threshold, we're looking for the bottom. Where's the bottom of the barrel that you need the minimum effective dose to give your body the metabolic maintenance and growth that it needs to survive and thrive? Doesn't have to be super crazy. We're not looking for big gains. We're looking for maintenance, essentially.
Yep.
So that's what this person is looking for. On the fuel side, we're looking for, what are the goals? Let's talk about that first. The goal is to help this person lose body fat. That's one of the things. We want to reduce inflammation, reduce insulin resistance, help them access the body fat that's on their body more efficiently and more cleanly. So we want to get them fat adapted.
Yes.
That's where the initial increase in fat intake can be helpful.
Yes.
Getting your body used to burning fat. Once you are adapted and your body is used to burning fat, we have to stop eating all the fat.
Yep.
Because your liver will never get good at making its own ketones if you keep shoving ketones in your face.
Yep.
You have to cut back on the fat at some point.
I would actually take a step back and say for all of our categories, if you are just starting a ketogenic diet, you've eaten standard American diet your entire life, high carb, probably high carb and high fat, to be quite frank, although maybe over the last 30 years with the food guide
more
and all
low
that,
fat,
lower fat. But you're gonna need to start higher fat. It's going to be beneficial to start higher fat. You're trying to train your body to seek out fat as the energy source as opposed to seeking out sugar.
Yep.
And that transition can be very difficult for someone who's never been low carb, not even low carb before, just going straight from high carb standard American diet. So that can be tricky and that can be difficult to manage through that transition. So this is where jacking up the fats at the beginning can really help there because it's going to make you feel better. It's going to ease that transition. It's going to give you plenty of fat excess. What this is excess fat to work with. So if you are obese and you are insulin resistant and you're struggling with, and fat loss is your main goal, then adding excess fat will not work. And this is what Bronson is saying. It will not work long term.
Well, this is where we get into the whole fat doesn't make you fat. Right?
Okay.
This is the concept behind that.
Let's go.
What does high fat even mean?
Oh my gosh. That is my biggest...
Define it.
One of my biggest pet peeves is this whole, you're high protein, you're high fat. What does that even mean?
Right.
It can mean two completely different things to two different people.
Exactly. So the scenario that we're talking we're looking at. This person, we didn't say it, but we're assuming this person is coming from Standard American. They're just starting keto, whatever. I need to change everything up. My doctor told me I'm going to die, whatever. So they're used to eating 200, 300, 400, 500 grams of carbs a day, and probably are lower fat because they've been told fat is going to kill them. So they're trying to do everything low fat milk, low fat this, low fat that. So 50, 100 grams of fat to them might be a lot. So when we come in and we say, we want you to start at 1 gram of fat per pound of lean mass, and they go, you want me to eat 160 grams, 150 grams of fat a day?
Let's back up because, first of all, to someone in this situation, lean body mass is a foreign concept.
Right. Well, we can say goal weight.
So the first thing that we do, and we both use this as pretty much the template, and then we work from there, is 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. We start there. Everybody across the board starts there, and then we find your optimal place, which is what he's talking about when he talks about thresholds. So for this individual, lean body mass is going to be difficult to calculate unless this person knows what their body fat percentage is, which a lot of people in this scenario don't.
No, and for us though, if you're working with us, we're going to get you some kind of body scan. That's going to be part of the process. So when we're assuming, I think I'm assuming that
we would, as a coach, we would figure that out.
Information,
But this is also why you hear out there in the space, okay, either 1 pound of protein per 1 gram of protein. That would be a lot.
A pound of protein per pound of fat. Yeah.
A gram of protein per pound of lean body mass, or your ideal weight.
Right.
We hear that a lot because even if you're underweight, that'll apply when we get to that person.
Trying to gain, yeah. So that's a way to do it as well. If you don't know your lean body mass,
you can start by ballparking. Well, what do I think is my weight, my goal weight?
Right, 100%. And that for a lot of people is going to be more fat than they're used to eating.
Well, wait a minute. We didn't even make that transition yet. So I was just talking about the protein piece, but what he's talking about is generally starting with a 1-to-1. So after we do the protein and we figure out 1 gram per pound of lean body mass, we start the fat at 1-to-1, gram for gram, protein to fat.
So if they match, and you go to somebody and you say, hey, if your number is 150, they could look at you like, you want me to eat 150 grams of fat every day? That's high for them. Mm-hmm. If you look at it compared to the ratios that everybody loves using, which are worthless, okay, it may be 80%, it may be 30%, it may be 60% of their total caloric intake. The percentage doesn't matter. To them, it's high because it's more than they've done before.
Right.
So they're thinking this is a high-fat diet plan. This is a high-fat way to eat. For somebody who's been keto for a while and they know what they're doing and they've been doing it and they want to go high-fat, to them, high-fat may be 250 grams of fat.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a whole different thing.
It's all relative.
It's a completely different thing. So the idea of this is high-fat, this is low-fat, this is high-protein, this is
context,
low-protein.
Folks.
Guys, it doesn't stop.
Just using terms like that doesn't help anyone.
It doesn't help anybody because nobody knows what it freaking means or when you're talking about it. What do you even mean? So, okay.
But the main thing we want to get across here about this individual is that they will start higher fat than what they're familiar with.
Correct.
If they're new to keto.
And they may even go up as we find their threshold. So this is where the energy threshold comes in of giving them as much fat over a period of time. Now, we're talking about titrating up. We're not talking about we're going to start you at 1-to-1, and then the next week you're going to add 20 grams of fat.
Well, and this is another really important distinction to make between joining something online where it's somebody's protocol.
Right.
And all of us, it doesn't matter what you've been doing up until this point. Now you're going to do these exact numbers that this protocol says to do.
Yep.
This could be 5 times as much food as you've been eating.
Yeah. 100%.
This could be 5 times as many calories as you've been consuming.
Or way less protein, or way more protein, or way less fat, or way more fat. I have people that when they come into my challenge, and I tell them I want you to eat 1 gram of protein per pound of lean mass. They look at me and they're like, "Holy crap! There's no way that's going to happen." And I tell them, "Okay, just try to do 5 extra grams a week. An extra half an ounce, an extra ounce per meal, and over time, it's not going to happen overnight."
And this
We
is
want to get you
where,
there, but you got to work yourself into it.
for me, I don't even just jump people to the 1-to-1 or the 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. I first make them show me accurate data for at least a week.
Okay, so you kind of see where they're at.
I need to know where you are, and if you're not giving me that information, you don't get your macros from me.
Right.
Until I get that information consistently, because I'm flying blind if I don't know what you've been doing. And particularly, I should also preface this by saying this first example that we're giving you, not typically the person that I work with.
Right.
Typically, someone that I work with has been doing keto for quite some time. They've tried a bunch of different things. They know how to track, and they're coming to me to figure out what's not working for them, because it's not working. They're not getting the results they want. So
very similar.
In that case, I need to assess what they've been doing before I can make any changes.
Right.
And then, but what I'm doing on the back end is just what Bronson explained to you. I'm going to calculate the 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. I'm going to calculate where I would put their fat and protein to start with, and I'm going to look at that in comparison to where they are.
You know what I just realized as you're saying that? I'm thinking about all my clients I've had over the past years, and if I were to look back, I would put money that 9 out of 10 of every client that I've had has not been eating enough protein and been eating too much fat. I'm thinking about just how the conversations go in the challenges, the conversations go in my one-on-ones.
They're mostly coming to you from the high-fat keto.
They're mostly coming to me, and we've talked about this on other episodes and things before. It's the people that I work with, most of them, like you said, have been doing this for a while and are stuck.
Yeah.
They've been trying keto. I've been doing keto for 3 years. Why am I still 100 pounds overweight? I've been doing keto for this long. Why am I still here? And 9 times out of 10, it's probably higher than that, but 9 times out of 10, it's not enough protein, not enough physical activity, and too much fat.
And that's a very common thing we see in the community. Honestly, that's probably the majority of the community. Yeah. I'm in an interesting spot because I get a good blend of that or the exact opposite.
Right.
Just eating a ton of protein and nowhere near enough fat to support
because you have the keto gains background and whatever else. And that's the other thing. The only other time I see that it's opposite is people who are not metabolically sick.
Right, which is going to be our next group.
And their whole thing is trying to improve performance. So
and they're likely
anybody that's sick is in that thing where we've been doing high fat to get healthy.
Yes.
Fat doesn't make you fat. Okay, great. Now, well, I'm still kind of fat and I'm still kind of not exactly 100% healthy. And I'm also weak and tired and I still have these things and I've been doing keto and it's not working. And why can't I make any progress? And I keep losing weight, then I'm gaining weight. And it's been 4 years and I feel like this isn't working.
Yeah, and this is where the nuance comes in because there's a couple of people in this first example. There's the person who's coming straight off of the standard American diet that we were talking about before, and that is the person is going to be totally new to these macros, totally new to this way of eating, that 1-to-1 is going to be a really great place to start them with.
And it's going to last them for a while.
They probably also are not very familiar with tracking macros, so we're going to have to give them a lot of support in how to figure out how to put meals together that even look like what we're talking about. So that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is the exact same person, only they've been doing keto for a while. This is the person that Bronson just explained is majority of the people that come to him. Still sick, still struggling to lose weight and to improve all of these health markers, and they've been doing insanely high fat, like the 80-20 thing. You know, it's just everything is extra fat on top of everything.
Right.
And taking them to the 1-to-1 is going to be quite a shift down on the fat from them.
Yeah.
And really what I was trying to get at when I said I ask for the tracking first is if I notice that a person is coming to me and what the numbers I would give them are wildly different from what they've been doing, that's when I don't give them those numbers at all yet. I give them a stepping stone. So the first macros I set for them are going to be closer to where I want them to be, and then we slowly move toward that.
Sure.
And that's usually the advice I give when I jump into groups and I'm chatting with people is, Don't just, I see it all the time in these groups. I was doing high protein, low fat. Then I heard 80-20 is the thing to do. So I just switched to that. And this is what's happening. And I'm like, you just caused a major disruption to your body.
Right.
Any diet change, guys,
Small,
even if it's as small as taking one food out for an elimination protocol, is going to be a shock to your body because your body has been used to doing something. And your body's main goal in life is to be in a homeostatic balance. So the minute that you jump into something brand new and totally change things, and then you're wondering and you're getting into the chat groups about this symptom and that symptom and what's happening here and there, you just threw everything at this thing. And now you don't know what variable may have been changing it.
Yep.
So we like to do a stepwise approach. We have our template, as we said, but then we're going to help that person go from wherever they are to where they really need to be, and do it in a sustainable way.
Yeah, the one thing, and this is, I hope this is obviously clear, that makes the way we do stuff different from a lot of other systems is that
it's not a box you have to fit yourself in.
So it's not these are the numbers you need to meet regardless.
Yes.
What we do is we have a starting point, and then we work to make adjustments based on the results that you're having.
Yes.
You will not. I guarantee you that by the time you're done working with us, what you're doing will look different than what you started with us.
Oh, absolutely.
So there is no 90 days of do this, 6 months of do this, and that's the only thing you're going to do. It's going to change because guess what, guys? You are going to change, and it needs to be it needs to change with you. It's the same thing with exercise. It's got to be progressive and it's got to be applicable. If it's not applicable to what you're doing, then why are you doing it? If it doesn't progress with your development, then it's not helping you develop. So the nutrition is the same way.
That's a really good way of putting it, I think.
I think that's the difference.
Our
protocol is about finding what works, not following a number.
It's customized and it's personalized.
Yeah.
Because we are all individuals. Yeah. And we don't just look at results, meaning, the numbers. We look at biofeedback.
I think the difference between what other people are doing, not that I care, but what other people are doing and what we're doing is other people have a protocol.
Right.
We have a method.
Okay.
We have sets of things that we do on a regular basis to make sure that the guidelines are working and they're modifiable, they're flexible, they're changeable, they're adaptable.
Yeah.
In a protocol, that you do step 1,
you do
step 2, you do step 3.
Yep.
Whatever happens in step 2 almost doesn't matter because you have to do step 3 next either way.
Right. And what if you're struggling with it? You're experiencing things, symptoms, problems.
You're in a box.
There's no troubleshooting along the way to figure out how to make it more optimal for you.
Right. Yeah. That's where the oversimplification of things. That's where calories in, calories out goes wrong. Mm-hmm. It's oversimplified and it gives you a box that you have to work in there's no way to adjust it.
That may not work for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. All right, a little
aside there. So let's move on to our next person.
Well, let's just make sure we have a good summary of this person. So sedentary, over 50, metabolic disease. For the version of this person who is
new to keto,
we're saying 1-to-1 protein, maybe a little bit less based on how they're responding to that. Now here's the deal, just so everybody knows, 99.9% of the time, no matter what solution, what template of a person we're looking at, 1-to-1 protein works.
It's the starting place.
I have never had a single person at any level of metabolic health who wasn't fine at 1-to-1.
Now, are you saying 1-to-1 or are you saying the 1 gram per pound of lean body mass?
1 gram per pound per 1 pound of lean, 1 pound of lean mass. So 1 gram of protein to 1 pound of lean mass is what I'm saying 1-to-1.
Gotcha. So it's 1-to-1 that we're talking about. 1-to-1. Yeah. 1-to-1.
Protein to lean mass.
Protein to lean mass.
Protein to
fat.
Well, I don't even like doing protein to fat. I like doing it all on lean mass
Oh, okay.
because hopefully that changes. And
Right.
then
Well, we're talking
eventually,
about where we're starting.
right, but where we're starting is it's 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of lean mass and 1 gram of fat to 1 pound of lean mass.
Right.
So because the fat and the protein aren't tied and they can change individually, I don't want to tie the protein to the fat in the ratio because then
Right. It's not a ratio.
Right.
Guys, when we're saying 1-to-1, even when we're talking, if we're saying fat and protein, we're talking about grams.
Correct.
That's a very important distinction to make.
Right, because the grams may go up and the protein may go down. The fat may go up and the protein may go down, or
Right.
vice versa.
Yep.
Based on the threshold and based on how somebody's responding. And that's what this whole discussion is about, is moving them individually.
Yep.
So this person who's new, they're going to start at 1-to-1 protein to lean mass. They may drop down a little bit if we can say, hey, maybe you're having some issues with blood sugar because of this, maybe drop it down, but we don't want to drop it down so much that they're not gaining
Or maybe they're just
anything.
Stuffed. They're not used to, because here's another
Correct.
thing.
That's
when
a
you're
whole nother
coming
Yep.
from standard American diet and you have a lot of processed foods, and now you're going to a whole foods, real foods based approach,
It's
which is
hard.
the way
It's
we
going to take some time to get there.
the way we approach it, you will be very full.
Right.
And especially increasing protein from what you're used to, and fat in this case,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be stuffed. And that's what we notice a lot of people with who first go keto in this scenario, this example, drop a ton of water weight from getting the carbs out.
Yep.
But also they're eating a lot less than they used to, because hyper palatable
can't do
packaged
it.
foods
Oh.
are much easier to eat in higher quantities.
Yeah.
And then real food is just not as easy to eat in higher quantities because it's so much more satiating.
Yeah, so it takes time to get them to actually get to that 1-to-1-to-1.
And this is why we see a lot of people doing OMAD, not because they heard about it, but just because they're like, I'm so full I can't eat another meal today.
Yeah.
So we'll work with that too. We work with all of the biofeedback. So if you're telling us like, gosh, I just really couldn't shove another meal in, like, okay, let it go today, no big deal. And maybe we'll take down that protein a notch until they can digest that better.
Right.
They can get through that better.
Or help them come up with some timing techniques or sizing their meals
Oh
differently.
yeah,
Or
preparations
things like that.
and all of that.
More salt always helps. Guys, in case you don't know, the more salt you put on your food, obviously don't oversalt where you can't stand the taste, but if you can put as much salt as you can possibly stand and still enjoy your food, it will help you eat more food.
Yep.
Just period. And enjoy your food. I've been carnivore for over 4 years, and there's not a single meal that I don't absolutely enjoy because of salt. It's all because of salt. Okay, so that's the first person. Do we want to talk about workouts for the first person?
Oh wait, that's the new to keto person.
And then the keto person who's been doing keto for a while.
Usually we're going to drop their fats from wherever they were.
Usually it's going to be the same thing, 1-to-1 protein, but your fats are going to come down.
Yep.
In most cases, you're overdoing the fat. If we're just getting you to 1-to-1 fat is going to be less fat than you're used to eating, and you're going to see some changes.
And it's likely that this person also has not been having enough protein.
Yes.
They're coming from that high fat, low protein ratio.
Yep.
Keto ratio.
So for that person who's been doing ratios, just breaking them of the ratios.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a mind fuck right there.
Of doing that. Just breaking the ratios is going to be where the benefit comes from.
Yep.
Okay. So, and again, it's all about adequate. You got to give your body what it needs. So that's what we're looking at.
Yeah. Right, so exercise for this
exercise for this person. Sedentary, overweight. What did we say? This person needs to be doing kind of full body, complex movements, getting a combination of weight and metabolic conditioning every time they work out.
Now, explain to the people what you mean when you say metabolic conditioning.
They need to get their heart rate up a little bit. They need to move in a way that makes them sweat and makes them breathe hard. Now, that doesn't mean they need to go try to do 100 burpees in 10 minutes.
Right.
For that person, it may be walking up and down the stairs 3 times.
Absolutely.
And then they got to stop and go sit down and take a break.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. Do that 1 time a day, then do it 2 times a day, then do it 3 times a day, something, right?
It's really what we're getting at here is something that's challenging for your body.
Yes.
Which, unfortunately, and I empathize with these people because, man, it's the hardest place to be. I get it. Like, it hurts to move. It hurts to do basic things. So this is where moving your body weight in daily activities
Yep.
is going to be a plus.
Absolutely. If you can get to the point where you can just move your body around without worrying about, can I get back up? Can I do this? Can I do that? Do I need help with this?
It doesn't have to be complex.
Yeah.
Simple movements.
You're getting to where you're basically just trying to develop your own physical freedom so that you don't have to rely on other people. You should be able to do everything you need to do with your body by yourself. That's your number one goal at this point.
Yep.
We're not trying to get you at the gym. We're not trying to get you super strong.
Nope.
Right? Just moving your body weight is the resistance that you need.
Air squats, holding onto the wall.
Yeah. Again,
the couch.
sitting up and down out of your chair, getting up and down out of your couch. Get on the floor to sit on the floor, then stand up from the floor.
Taking a 15-minute walk.
All that kind of stuff. So that's where you need to be. But if you're not sweating, if you're not a little bit out of breath, then you're not working hard enough.
There you go.
And that doesn't mean
I love that
doesn't mean panting, you can't barely breathe, you can't even talk. But you got to put yourself through a little bit of a challenge, because here's the deal. The metabolic performance doesn't come if you're not telling it needs to happen.
There has to be a challenge.
There has to be a challenge. So the idea here is, okay.
Oh, he's got something he wants to say.
The effect that you get in your mitochondrial health from eating extra fat is less. Here's two things about this. It's less than people think. Number one, because you're getting the benefit by cutting out the carbs more than by eating the fat.
Okay.
Cutting out the carbs is reducing the stress that is keeping your mitochondria from performing as much as it needs to. It's the carbs. It's not the fact that you're low fat. If you now cut out the carbs and then add more fat, so your body now starts to learn how to adapt, then yes, there's going to be a performance there, a performance boost. But here's the thing. That performance boost is only going to be as effective as the activity of the energy requirement you give it. So if I have mitochondria, their job is to make energy. If I never require my body to make energy, then I'm never making my mitochondria work better. So exercise gives your body the requirement to make more energy, so then your mitochondria can become better and more healthy, right? Working out doesn't just work out your muscles, it works out your mitochondria. So if the idea behind going high fat is I want healthier, stronger, better reproductive mitochondria, then you have to exercise. Okay, that's one thing. The second thing is, as you build lean mass, as you build muscle, guess what organ in our body has the most mitochondrial density? Muscle. So if you want healthy mitochondria and you want more of them to help you burn and utilize more energy, build muscle. I would say that the benefit of exercise and protein to build muscle is more beneficial than increasing your fat.
Wow, shots fired.
Because it's less about the fat that you're eating and more about the carbs that you're not eating, and then optimizing how your body functions, which is what protein and exercise do. If any of that made sense. Did that make sense?
I was like, this is all him. But I know that there's an audience out there that needs to hear that and is keyed into that.
Yeah.
I'm like, mitochondria, schmitochondria. But I will tell you this. It also improves your central nervous system.
Oh, 100%.
And guys, if you're waiting to start exercising until you have less weight on your body, because once again, I get it, it hurts, it's not comfortable. Guess what? Later on, when you don't have as much weight on your body and you haven't built any core stability or balance or coordination, it is going to be just as difficult to do those movements, even though you don't have as much weight to carry around. Because you never built the central nervous system. You never built that brain-body connection to learn how to move your body in these ways and to support your body in balance, coordination, agility, all of these things that you would learn by moving your body now. So do not wait to start moving until you're smaller.
100%. And then the other part of that, which is, again, more nuance, is your body moves differently at 300 pounds than it does at 150 pounds. the way that your joints work, the range of motion you have, how you have to carry yourself, and your center of gravity. And there's a bunch of things that go into how your body moves. So if you're not continually moving and keeping in touch with your central nervous system, in touch with the muscles and how you move while you're losing that weight,
You're
trying
gonna
to
have to
start that
relearn.
after the fact is like you're starting from a hole almost.
Yeah. Well, it's like not teaching a baby how to walk and
Right.
saying, you know what, I'll wait until they're older and
That's a great analogy. That's a
they
great
don't
analogy.
they have less baby fat, and then I'll teach them how to walk. It's going to be
Yeah.
just as more difficult at that point, because the older we get, the central nervous system, like
Neuroplasticity.
think about how quickly children can learn concepts.
Right.
And how much longer it takes us as an adult to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't go take a gymnastics class tomorrow and learn how to do backflips like overnight. A kid would go to a gymnastics class and be flipping off of tables
Yeah, there's
everywhere.
also less fear.
This is true.
Okay, so that's the first person. We just spent 50 minutes on the first person. We may have to make this a
We
two-parter.
did.
But the first person,
I know. You know what? We really should do a separate one all about the menopause.
we can do that.
So we can do that. Sorry, ladies, if you got excited hearing about that we were going to talk about that on this one. But since we're almost at an hour, we'll do the lean athletic individuals on this one.
Yeah.
And we'll do a whole separate podcast all for
Just
our
on the menopause one?
ladies.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I mean, I know we have some rabbit
then
holes.
we can even
We have
talk
rabbit
about-
holes we want to go down
We
on
can
that
even
one.
talk about the study and how that worked
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything else, right? Because we've actually got like a case study that was
Oh my
done.
gosh.
Like-
Yes.
like
Okay.
These things actually work, folks. Okay. The next person we have. So just to recap, because we kind of got off a little bit
I know,
on
we
the
were-
fitness side for the
We did a
overweight.
recap that lasted another 30
Yeah, right. So on the fitness side, overweight, sedentary, metabolic syndrome, bunch of issues. No matter what their experience with keto is, they need to be doing something that is resistance and metabolic conditioning. So
Yes.
full body, try to move their body in as many different ways as possible, get their heart rate up, get moving, get that sweat on, and get their conditioning up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
As well as something that's challenging their muscles.
And if we want to talk about how frequently, I'm a huge fan of moving your body daily.
Absolutely.
So I would
Sure.
rather you do 10 minutes a day than 1 hour a
Well,
week.
We can
on
get
one
into
day.
a whole nother side thing of the beginner stimulus and beginner gains and all the other kind of stuff.
Oh,
So
yeah.
your the level of intensity in your body is much less as a beginner. So feel free to do something every day if you're in this place. Like
Absolutely.
It doesn't need to be only 3 days a week.
And that would be much easier to do, like a 15-minute workout every day,
Exactly.
than to get in your head that I need to find an hour to do it 3 times a week.
Absolutely.
And I only did it once a week, and now I feel like a failure and all of that. Because remember, psychology is a big part of all
Big
this
part
as
of it.
well.
All right. So the next person we have, you want to explain the next person?
Yes, this is our lean athletic individual. This makes up maybe about half of my clientele.
Half of yours? Okay. I've got a couple, but not a lot.
Yeah, these are our folks who have dealt with and improved all of their metabolic issues or never had them. Maybe have some things here and there
Mhm.
that they're dealing with, but nothing major, no major health risks on the horizon. Typically, these are our athletes. These are our people who are either triathletes or bodybuilders or crossfitters or yeah, anything really, any activities. Probably have
soccer
been
players, volleyball players, whatever.
very active. This is typically the person who doesn't have a lot of downtime or any downtime. They're running from the gym to work to kids stuff to
Right.
after
Who
work
knows what?
extracurricular activities to making dinners and doing things in the house, and then maybe they don't ever sit down all day. Probably not chilling on the couch, not having hours of Netflix at night, passing out and then waking up, barely getting any sleep, waking up and doing it all over again. This might be our 4 a.m.er.
Yeah.
Getting up and doing the workout at 4 a.m.
Or getting up super early, going to work, and getting off work early so they can go to the gym and then get home before their kids do. Like stuff
working
like that,
long
right?
shifts at work, and
Yeah.
then okay, so a lot of the time with these individuals, they are not fueling enough. They are not consuming enough, period, to really support their body and everything.
Well, let's talk about the mindset. So it's one of those things. A lot of the people today, because the mindset is eat less, work more.
Yep.
we've been told that in order to get to look fit, you have to starve yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't make sense if you're trying to be a high performing or an athletic person.
Yeah, high
And
functioning.
there's a cognitive dissonance there where people just don't make the connection between physical ability and nutrition.
Doing more feels better. Oh my goodness! And the the cardio junkies. I mean, honestly, I see it more with those individuals than bodybuilders. Once you've gotten into bodybuilding and you know a little something, you understand a lot more about
that you got to eat.
That you have to eat to support your recovery.
Right.
So typically, we're talking about the athletics that are outside of pure bodybuilding or aesthetic.
Yeah, well,
lifting.
a lot of people get stuck into doing fitness activities for the look, for the weight loss. So they're not and that's why there's that cognitive dissonance.
These
Because
are my
they're not
people
thinking
that,
about performance. They're thinking about I need to work off
yes,
to work off this calories or
oh my
work
gosh,
off this thing or whatever.
If you're
else.
the person who lives by your wearables and you're tracking your calorie burn
and steps
and oh my goodness, I don't feel successful today because I didn't burn enough calories.
I walked around in my living room for half an hour in a circle to get the rest of my steps in for the day.
Oh gosh, yep.
How many times have you heard that?
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. Chasing the burn, right? Chasing the burn in your workouts. That workout wasn't hard enough.
Yep.
Oh, this trainer gave me a workout and it wasn't hard enough.
So I did more.
Yes, I added more reps, more sets, more. I added burpees. I added this, I added that. Or you get on a resistance training program and it doesn't feel hard enough because you're used to this sweat. Oh, the sweat. Chasing the sweat. If I'm not
sweating, I'm not working.
Right?
And that's the hardest one for people who are transitioning from something into like, okay, I want to build lean mass. So this group of people, it's really hard for them to transition into an actual mass or lean mass building program because you don't have to. The intensity is different. The intensity is in the effort exerted to move weight, not in how hard can I work my body.
Yes.
It's a different feeling.
Feeling like you need to throw up at the end of the exercise or it wasn't hard enough. Yeah. Or you have to walk away from the training session feeling like you can't walk.
Yep. Doesn't have to be like that.
It doesn't have. Matter of fact, it shouldn't.
It shouldn't. You should feel energized.
Yep.
After a workout, not beat down.
Yep. And a lot of the time, this is also the group. This would also be the group. Let's say they're the newbie to keto and they're coming from standard American diet. They were the people in the spin classes being encouraged to work for their pizza.
Yep.
Right? Yep. Work for your carbs. You have to earn your carbs. You have to earn your calories.
Yeah, that's a healthy mindset.
Probably counted calories for many years.
Sure.
Right?
Well, that's another common thing. A lot of these people, having a regimen is not unfamiliar.
Oh yeah.
So counting calories, tracking their workouts, keeping a schedule, like the action portion of doing things is not something we ever really have to work with them on.
Right.
It's what they're doing.
Yep.
And why they're doing it that we have the most.
And we have to encourage them to slow down, which is a really tough thing.
That's a hard one. That's always a hard one. You all need to rest. You all need to slow down. It's a whole different thing. So for this group of people, it's a very different solution.
Yep.
From an activity perspective, because most of the time we're trying to change up the routine, cut down the cardio, increase the training, increase the weight training, get them to take more days off.
Yes. Oh my gosh, please take a rest day.
That's a whole nother aspect too, because they're probably more experienced in the physical training aspect. So their intensity is higher, so they need more rest than a beginner.
And they're addicted, right? It's addicting. And it's such a mental therapeutic thing for them to be in the gym or to be in their sport that taking a day off is very foreign and very uncomfortable.
Yep. So, when we were talking about the beginners, you can probably do something every day. Mm-hmm. These people can't.
No.
The level of intensity that they're working at is more than their body can, their central nervous system primarily can physically handle.
They may be doing more than once a day already.
They have to take more time off.
Yeah.
Have to. So that's just one of the main differences, right? Yep. So we just talk about these
people. That's on the, we kind of do this backwards. That's on the exercise
that's the exercise.
Side.
So that for them, we're going to change their program up probably. If their goal, we're assuming this person's goal is to build more muscle primarily and improve performance, which is going to be build more muscle. So they got to get stronger, faster, those types of things. So we're going to change their program to make sure that they're not doing as much metabolic conditioning, because they don't need conditioning.
Right.
They need muscle.
Yep.
Very different things.
Very different.
Some of these people are super lean.
Yes.
And we want them to put on a little bit of fat.
Yep. With the muscle, right.
It's the idea of, and this is something that I know blows people's minds, is you don't have to be super lean to be a very good athlete.
Oh, right. Absolutely. And to look amazing.
Right. If the idea is to have fuel available whenever your body needs it, then you don't want to be so lean that the only way your body can access fuel is when you eat it. It's got to be on your body, folks.
Okay. I have to share a little aside here. When I first started competing, like many women, it was about getting body fat off and just getting lean. And it's funny for me now when I look back at my first shows. My first show in particular, I just looked like nothing. Like I had nothing going on. But after my second show, the second year competing, and I was in a bad place because I felt like felt so I didn't feel like I belonged on that stage. And I was competing in bikini back then. Bikini has gotten leaner and leaner and leaner over the years. But even back then, like, I was bigger than bikini. And it was hard for me at the time. But what I had to do after that was stop following people that did not have my body type. Mm-hmm. And I started at that point in time embracing following women with muscle, with more muscle than me. And I started considering where I could go with this sport. And as I followed these women, now, of course, the algorithms are sharing with me powerlifting women and Olympic lifting women and athletic women who are very good at their sports. And I got to see what these women are sharing. First of all, how incredible they looked in their bodies with all that muscle on them. And I started getting attracted to that, as opposed to, like many women, not wanting to get bulky at first and just wanting to be lean. And once I found that attractive and I started like considering like that I would look good like that, it really shifted my whole relationship with my body and helped to shift my relationship with food. But then, and even more recently now, seeing more of the powerlifter women out there and the athletes who are at a high level in their sport sharing their off seasons, that is the coolest thing to see, because you get to see healthy women in healthy bodies. This is not too lean. This is not stage lean like bodybuilders in that moment on stage. Yep. This is how they walk around when they are at the height of their performance. And it looks healthy. And, you know, for anyone who's ever had issues with body image or disordered eating where you are just petrified to put fat on your body. So this individual, a lot of the time,
this sample person we're talking about.
You know what? I gotta say something.
Get it?
A lot of the time, this person hides behind their sport and says it's all about performance and says it's all about the sport.
Yep.
But in actuality, they are scared to death of putting on body fat.
100%.
And they are purposely under consuming because they're obsessed with that scale.
Yep. Yeah. And it's the opposite of sports performance.
It is. It is. It truly is. It's not optimizing anything. Your health, your quality of life.
Yep. So, and that's where, you know, getting into that and saying, look, you know, as a coach, if this is about performance, then these are the things you need to do to improve your performance.
Yep. And if it's about body composition and you truly do want to put on muscle, some of these folks, they're great where they are. We can just focus on the building. We don't have to worry about, you know, putting on body fat. Others, some body fat really needs to come along with that muscle.
Yeah. And here's the deal with the body fat, guys. It's okay to be lean. If you're a guy and you're like, I want to get to under 10%, that's great. If you're a woman and you want to get to, I don't know what women fantasize about for body fat percentage.
I would say anything sub 20 is lean, is low for a woman.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think from a normal everyday life perspective, anyone needs to be below 20. And honestly, guys, that's for guys too. I think guys, if you want to get to 15, that's about as probably as low as I would recommend to be sustainable and not obsessed over what you're eating. And like for me, I can go intuitive, 100% intuitive, and not measure anything, and I will naturally creep up to 15, 16% if I'm just intuitive. That's kind of where my body is happy at a homeostatic.
And I'd say I'd be probably
is.
around 22, 23%.
Yeah. But when I'm tracking, like right now, I'm sub 10%, and I'm trying to, get you guys know I play around doing different things. So I'm trying to get lower with some protocols that I'm testing, but it's not bad right now. If I get much more lower than I am now, we'll kind of see how things go. But I can imagine my energy is going to start to come down as the body fat on my body. I just have less fat on my body to access. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But that's a whole topic for another day. So this
let's
person.
talk about the nutrition for this person.
I was just going to say, this person, again, we start on the same, right? We figure out where they are.
At the very least, they better be having one.
Right, we want to get them at least to 1 to 1 to 1, however we get them there. But that's our starting point, essentially. Yep. Now, for them, their fat may go way up.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Right? Unlike the person who's trying to lose body fat and we're trying to not get near their threshold, this person, we may find their threshold and then add another 20 grams or add another 25 grams.
Yeah.
Because the amount of things that they're doing and the stress they're putting on their body, the fuel requirement for them is higher.
And it is likely that their protein is going to be 1.2 to 1
Yep.
even 1.5 times.
Yeah. And there's a difference there too. Okay, so here's the difference. If the person's goal is just athletic performance, they are a semi-pro or even a pro athlete, they may be at the 1 to 1.25. They're not trying to build muscle, they're trying to repair muscle. So they need enough to recover from their activity. Someone who's trying to build and actively gain lean mass, they may be at a 1.5 or 1.6 or something like that, where we're like, look, you're going to specifically kill your muscles and try to get them to grow as fast as possible. You need as much protein in your system as you can handle. And in some cases, it may be higher than that.
Mine is 1.6 right now.
Yeah. I wonder what mine is.
I'm at 1.6 times my lean body mass in protein.
Keep talking.
So, and he's going to calculate his, tell you where he's at. So yeah, I mean, it can definitely go up. And here's the caveat there. Just as we said before for the first individual, fat and protein do not need to change the other one. So if you're at 1.6 times your lean body mass in protein and your fat is at 50 grams, because you're like, well, I'm eating all this protein, so I drop my fat. Like, they're separate. You have to separate the two and not be obsessive about calories, because this person's typically
doesn't mean squat.
This person's using ratios because of calories, because they don't want to exceed some calorie number.
Because they're thinking about total calorie expenditure of the day. If I'm this active, then I'm burning this extra, which is a whole nother thing that we know is wrong. We don't know how many calories we actually burn.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to get an accurate number there.
It doesn't work that way. So, yeah, they're separate. Again, so they're doing the ratio and the comparison for a different reason. Not because it's some protocol, but because they're trying to stick to a total calorie intake.
Yeah.
And it's screwing them up.
And they're worried, I don't know, this person may not be as worried about protein calories as the other person, but eating plenty of protein is not going to put fat on your body. But there very much can be a fear of fat with this person.
Yes.
So they don't want to eat the fat.
They're thinking about calories in general. Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't want to eat any of this stuff. And if I keep the fat low, then I won't. Yeah. You got to eat the fat.
So where are you at right now with your fat? I mean, your protein to lean body mass?
1.21.
Okay.
Is where my protein's at right now.
Cool.
And I'm gaining just under a pound a month. Just under a pound a month.
Yeah. And this is actually a good point to make, is that I'm deep in a cut right now. So my protein is higher because we've had to cut my fuel calories. So my fat is lower. For that reason, a lot of the time in a cut, we will pull the protein up so you can be satiated. You can have more. It's easier to maintain a cut with more protein. In an off season, my protein might not be this high. I'll have a lot more fuel coming in from fat. I'll be happy as a clam. I'm not.
We got to find out what your threshold is. Because we did.
When
I
we
wasn't
started me at 1 to 1 to 1, we started there also because I was at. It was like. Yeah, it was 1 gram.
Well, but your threshold is going to change too.
No, we didn't, because even then, it was higher. It's probably 1.2.
Okay.
Because we were doing my total body weight, not my lean body mass.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So for this person, we're going to start them at 1 to 1, but they're probably going to be in the 1.25, 1.2 range. If they're really trying to grow muscle, maybe even up to 1.5.
Yep.
Guys, just in general, you could do more if you wanted to. It's not going to help.
No.
There's a diminishing return. And from what I've seen, I think Menno just had an article earlier this year that talked about the diminishing return. And anything over 1.5 is pretty much like, yeah, you could do it. It may help with your thermic effect. It may help with thermogenesis. This minute percentage of a percent, 3 decimals over, but it's really not going to help you out that much. So 1.5 is probably the most you need to realistically look at. Anything over that isn't going to necessarily harm you or do anything bad, but why spend the effort?
Well, and I would say this. If you're eating adequate fat, which many of these people are not, you're not going to be able to eat that much protein. That's a whole nother,
fat and protein combined is super satiating. Yeah.
So typically the reason, sometimes we see people out there eating just 2 times like as much protein as they
I've just recently had a couple clients who are like, I'm doing 300 grams of protein
a day.
I'm like, why are you doing
Sometimes we see that, and I'll tell you why I think that we see that. They're not eating adequate fat.
Yep.
And they're so afraid of fat that they're just they're pushing into the protein and just eating all the protein they possibly can.
I've got a guy who's...
It's unnecessary.
Yeah. I've got a guy who's like 6% body fat, and he doesn't want more. He doesn't want to add fat. I'm like, dude, you don't need to be at 6% body fat.
I bet you're constipated. I bet you money you're constipated. You're having problems going to the bathroom. If you're eating double the protein you should and you're eating half the fat you should, I bet you can't digest that protein.
Can we talk about this? Because this may help people. If you're stuck in this, I don't want to add fat, I don't want to build fat. You need to understand that the more muscle you have, the better you'll look with more fat.
Yeah.
So I can be at 10%, 15% body fat, and there's not that much of a difference generally in how I look. Yeah, you can see more veins. You can see the lines in my 6-pack or whatever more. You can see individual muscle striations, things like that at 10%. But it's really not that much different at 12, 13, 14, 15%.
Look, y'all.
It's really not.
I love the way this man looks without clothes on.
Right.
He does not need to be lower body fat for me to be attracted to him.
But I've also put on 5 pounds of muscle in the past 6 months.
Yeah, you have.
And I plan on putting on more. So the more muscle you have, this is where I tell you guys, whether you're trying to lose fat or whether you need to gain fat, building muscle is your answer. Mm-hmm. Always. Muscle solves a lot of problems.
Well, and ladies, I can tell you that if you're too lean, how can I say this? First of all, you're making it more difficult for you to put muscle on your body if you're not getting adequate fat in your diet. But I think that there's probably some body dysmorphia going on. Because majority of people, even in the industry, would tell you that women look better with a little bit of body fat on them.
Sure.
That it looks healthier. It looks, you fill out more. You're able to really see the curves in a better way.
Yeah, and we're not saying that this is all about aesthetics. I don't want anybody to think that we're saying you look bad if you're super lean. It's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that if you're trying to actually be healthy, there is unhealthy obese, there is unhealthy lean.
Oh yeah.
They're extremes, and you can be too much of one or the other. And there are hormonal impacts, there are energy management impacts, there are lifestyle impacts on the negative side of things. The net negative we talked about earlier of being too lean, as much as there is of being obese.
And you can look at biofeedback, like your energy. How is your energy throughout the day? Are you Are you crashing? Are you struggling with
Are you
fatigue?
having adrenal fatigue?
Are
you
you
having
not
hormone
sleeping well
issues?
at
Yeah.
night? These are all signs and symptoms that there's something going on, and it could be, you're just too
Body
lean.
fat's too low.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so that's it for the 2. We're going to come back and do another episode on the peri and
Menopause.
postmenopausal.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thanks for listening, guys. Hopefully that was helpful, and gives you a little peek into how we look at things, all of the different things that we can look at. And we didn't even get into a lot of the lifestyle stuff. How do we match all this stuff with scheduling and meal timing and food prep and all of the other different things that can go into the equation? So there's a lot of stuff, guys. And hopefully that just gives you a better appreciation for context-driven solutions and not just following a set of numbers.
So wherever you are right now, here's a takeaway. Here's a little takeaway advice. First things first, if you haven't been tracking, track everything you consume right now for at least a week. 2 weeks would be great. See where you are. See where you fall with the numbers that we shared with you. Are you close to 1-to-1 protein and fat for your lean body mass? If you're wildly off from that, the first step you need to take is start moving toward that slowly. 5 to 10 gram increments, whether you need to increase your protein, decrease your fat, increase your fat, or decrease your protein to get there. Try that. And from there, what's the quickest takeaway, Bronson, you can give them for finding their threshold?
For your protein threshold, you want to find the minimum amount of protein that you need to feel good after physical activity.
So let's say they've gotten to 1-to-1 and they want to improve that.
They want to improve that. If you're at 1-to-1 on your protein and you still feel like, man, my workouts feel like crap. I'm tracking, because you got to track your exercise too. How much weight are you lifting? How fast are you doing
I'm
your
hungry
reps?
all the time.
Things like that. Like, I'm hungry all the time. My workouts aren't improving. I'm not able to add weight to my things, or I'm not able to add reps. If you're seeing that your physical performance isn't improving, then up it again. Same thing, 5 grams at a time for a few weeks until you feel like, oh, I did it for 2 more weeks. I've added 10 grams. I feel really good here. Boom, you found your number. That's your minimum. That number doesn't change.
Beautiful.
You stay there.
Now, how about the fat?
And then the fat is very similar, except we're looking at how are you adding body fat? That's the primary key.
Yep.
That's the primary key. The utilization of fat for fuel is limited in how much your body can use. When you exceed that amount, it will store it. So I don't care how metabolically unhealthy you are, how unhealthy your mitochondria are, or any of that other crap. If you are eating more fat than your body can process, you are going to gain fat.
It will store it as fat. Absolutely.
Fat does not make you fat. Too much fat makes you fat. And it's easy to get too much.
One of the biggest questions I get is how do I figure out my macros for maintenance after a cut? I've been on this cut, and this is for anybody who's been on a fat loss, weight loss journey for a long time. So you've been seeking fat loss, weight loss for a long time. And you're like, I think I'm getting close to maintenance, but how do I know? I think I'm good here. I've been on these macros to lose fat for so long. Now I don't know what to do with my macros for maintenance. I always tell them this. The only thing you change is your fat.
Yes, 100%.
You keep everything else the same. You start slowly adding fat until you start gaining fat. When you start gaining fat, stop adding fat. It's that simple.
That's your threshold.
It's that simple.
It's that simple. Just add a little fat. And we're not talking about calories, guys. We're talking about grams.
Grams of fat, 5 to 10 grams at a time max.
We'll make this as simple as possible, just as an example, okay? If your number, let's say your lean mass is 100 pounds. Okay? And you are getting 100 grams of protein every day, and you're getting 100 grams of fat every day. Okay? Then your goal, and you're trying to understand what maintenance is, like you just said. And you're losing. At 100 grams of fat every day, I lost 5 pounds of fat. Okay, so that's below your threshold. I keep my protein at 100. I go to 105 of fat grams. I do that for a week or two and see if I gain fat. Did I gain fat? No, I actually still lost fat. Oh, sweet. Okay.
Now go up again.
Another 5 for another week or two. So now I'm at 110. 110, did I gain fat? No, but I didn't lose either. Okay, so maybe we're around a threshold. Let's see if we go to 115. Let's go to another 5. Oh, I did that for another week or two. And you know what? I gained a pound of fat over those 2 weeks. Okay, so somewhere between 110 and 115 is your maximum energy threshold.
Boom.
So go back to 105 and hang out there all day long.
Yep. And you should be chilling in maintenance.
Chilling.
Now, if you are a person who, let's say you're that exact person you just talked about.
Yep.
You found that fat threshold. You're doing great. You're struggling to make gains. Your workouts are not great. You're not gaining strength. You're not able to add more weight to the bar. You're not able to increase your reps. Your performance is struggling. Your recovery is struggling. You're like, I don't want to go back to the gym today. Like my body is broke down. You need to increase your protein.
Right. So you found your threshold for energy. You're at 105 now. You know, at 105 grams, I'm not going to gain fat. I'm not really going to lose a lot of fat either. I'm going to be kind of in a happy place. So now your protein, you go to 105. Oh, does that make a difference in my exercise? Do I feel better? No, not really. It doesn't. For a week or two. Oh, okay, that didn't happen after 2 weeks. Let me go to 110. It's the same process, guys.
Yep.
It's the same process.
And guess what? If you hit that energy threshold and your performance is suffering, you need to not be afraid to add protein, thinking that now your calories are going to be too high and you're going to start adding fat. It doesn't work that way.
Calories
So
won't
don't be afraid to add the protein, even if you've already found your fat threshold.
And here's the deal. Let's say, worst case, out of the blue scenario, you do this process and you go from 100 to 120 grams of protein. Okay. And then somewhere randomly, you're at 120 grams of protein at 105 grams of fat. And after 3 weeks, you're like, man, I put on half a pound of fat. Oh my God, what do? Go to 100 grams of fat now. Just drop the fat down a little bit.
So here's
it doesn't have to be a super complex thing.
Here's the really simple. We just simplified this like beyond belief.
Yeah.
Just now. Protein for performance.
Yep.
Fat for body fat.
Fat for fuel. Yeah. PPFF.
So if you're having an issue with body fat, you fix it with fat.
Yep.
Not meaning you add fat, meaning you
Take
lower
away
the fat. Lower the fat to lower your body fat.
Yep.
If your issue is not having good performance or recovery or strength gains, anything related to your performance, increase protein.
For sure.
They're separate people. They have separate goals. I hope 100%. That made it crystal clear.
If not, you know where to get a hold of us to ask more questions.
Yes.
Thank you for listening. We will come back and do another episode specifically on women in peri and postmenopause because that's going to be a fun one. We got a lot of stuff to talk about there. Thanks for listening. And as always, if you have questions, ideas for topics, anything else you want to hear us talk about, please let us know.
Let us know. We want to hear from you.
All right. Take it easy, guys. Don't forget to
eat, sleep, lift, repeat. Not necessarily in that order.